Welcome to the Jack Hubble Jazz Show. Playing with the jazz outfit tonight, we have on drums, Dom Giaconetti. Playing bass with the outfit tonight, we have Barry Shaw. Playing some piano right now. We'll be playing some harmonica. We have Brad Hubble. I'm Jack Hubble. I'll be playing some tenor, playing some piano. We have a very special guest artist tonight, very fine trumpet player we've had on before, Merle Bowley. We're going to start this set out, the thing written by Milt Jackson. This is called Bag's Groove. second tune of this show, we're going to do a Photomat theme song. This is called Someday My Prince Will Come. One. Someday My Prince Will Come. Photomat's theme song. My guest artist for tonight's show is an old friend of mine, Merle Boley. We've had Merle on before, did a wonderful job. Very fine trumpet player around Chicago area. And we were just talking, Merle and I, just before we got on, about some of the old days in New York City. When was that, Merle? When were you there in New York? What years was that?
I guess around 49, 48.
Around in that?
Can't remember for sure.
How many years were you in New York?
Oh, about 5.
About 5 years. So you must have really heard some of the greats playing around there back in those days.
Birdland,
which of course was named after Bird. Yeah. Now, Bird, you said, was a friend of yours, so you got to know Bird a little bit?
Yeah, through a friend of mine, Joe Maney.
So did you ever jam with them over at your crib or anything like that?
Oh, he used to come over there and play, yeah.
Wow, that's great. Of course, everybody knows right now that there's movie was made called Bird, you know, the legend of Charlie Parker. I saw Bird play many times around town here, but never over in New York. Were you around in Minton's when Minton's was going on?
Yeah, I used to live very close to there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. What about Al Haig? Did you know Al Haig, too?
Yeah, I met Al in Chicago.
You met Al in Chicago, yeah. Al was one of the early bebop piano players who used to play with Bird.
He used to play with everybody. I mean, it seemed like Stan Getz. And,
oh, sure.
and Bird.
Oh, yeah, Getz had him for a long time. He was always on the scene. He's gone now, too, but he was one of the great piano players. I got to know him when he came through Chicago. God, that must have been 1952. He came through with the, oh God, no, I can't think of the name. Yeah, with the Tex Beneke Big Band.
Sonny Rollins used to come by once in a while, too.
Sonny Rollins?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sonny was...
Because I lived on the edge of Harlem.
Was Sonny still out on the East Coast, too, around those days?
Yeah.
Because he was from this area, wasn't he? Sonny still...
Yeah, he spent a lot of time around there.
Oh, I spent a lot of time in Chicago. I played with Sonny a lot. I remember there was a club in 1952 called the Spotlight Lounge. Were you around Chicago in those days?
I remember the club.
Yeah, the Spotlight. That was on Berry and Broadway. God, everybody used to come in there. I remember, well, that's where I met Al Haig. And Red Rodney used to come in there, too, whenever they were in this area. You know,
Yeah.
Getz came in there. Well, listen.
Kenny Frederickson used to play there.
Well, Kenny Frederickson was one of the greats. My God, one of the most unsung, one of the greatest piano players I ever heard in my life. And it's a shame that it just never happened for Kenny. Of course, he had a few good times, you know, and he was with Bird for a while, too. Bird with strings, and then that fell apart and all that kind of stuff. Well, listen, we've had the band up here, and we've played one tune at the beginning. Let's get them back up here, and let's do a little playing. And the heck with all this talking. Nice having you, Merle.
Thank you.
Okay. I just didn't feel like talking tonight. We're going to do a beautiful ballad, very rarely played. This is called Stairway to the Stars, featuring Merle on trumpet and Brad on harmonica. last tune of this show, we're going to do a great old standard. This is called I Hear a Rhapsody, featuring again Merle on trumpet.
I blues. We want to thank you for watching another Jack Hubble Jazz Show. Give credit to everybody on the band. Playing on drums, we have the fabulous Dominic Giaconetti. Playing bass, we have the inimitable Barry Shaw. Thank you, Barry, did a great job. Playing piano on tonight's show and harmonica, we had Bradley Hubble. I'm Jack Hubble, playing some tenor, some piano. And we have an extra special guest, an old friend of mine, Merle Bowley, playing some lovely trumpet. Thank you again, Merle, for being on the show. We're going to play fours with Dom and go into all the credits and have a little fun.